Hey, what's going on everybody? Craig here. I hope you guys are doing awesome. It's 2025 already and I can't believe I'm saying that, but it is. I feel like last year just flew by. I know I've been wanting to post more videos, but just been super busy with a lot of other stuff and planning to try to make more. I really want to do that and this is the start of it. And I thought what better way to kick off the new year than with a studio tour. So the last studio tour that I did was, I think, back in 2020. Can't believe I'm saying that too. But a lot has changed. I've moved into a new space. I've been here for a few years. This is definitely my favorite of any home studio space that I've had. This is basically where I work. This is where I make music. This is where I'm here most of the day. So I thought it would be cool to take you guys through how I use this space for music production as well as content creation for Sound Iron. Sound Iron is my job. That's where I work. We make virtual instruments of various kinds. I've talked a little bit about the guitar library that I did. I've also done some other sampling in here, as well as just various music production or just various work tasks. So I thought it'd be cool to take you guys through how I have it set up for the various things that I do in here, whether it's video or music, and break it up into a couple different segments. So I thought it would be good to talk about the desk setup, which is like how I have it set up to just be ergonomic and also just have everything very accessible. Then we can talk about some guitar gear, whether it's amps, my different modeling units or hardware that I use, maybe go over some of the guitars. I'm not gonna go over a ton of the guitar gear because I covered a lot of that in the 2020 studio video, but I have added a few things since then. And then another thing that I wanted to go over is the lighting and camera gear that I use for content creation. I do a lot of videos over on the Sound Iron YouTube channel. So if you haven't seen a lot of videos on this channel, it's because I do a lot of videos on that channel. And various walkthroughs, composing tutorials, we do podcasts and stuff. So a lot of my content creation stuff is over there on that channel. So if you want to see some of that, if you're into that, make sure to head over to the Sound Iron YouTube channel and subscribe and see a bunch of cool stuff that we got going on over there. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about in this video is camera gear and lighting. So when I first started my YouTube journey, I had nothing but my iPhone. I know there's tons of awesome camera gear out there. There's a lot of channels that have really awesome footage, really awesome B-roll and all types of stuff like that. And when I started, all I had was my iPhone. I don't even remember what iPhone it was. All I know is maybe like an iPhone 7 or something. And the only reason I used to try to get new iPhones or want to get new iPhones was because the cameras would always get better. But once I started working for Sound Iron, I was like, okay, I need to step my game up, So I went out and I purchased a Canon 77D. That's the first DSLR I ever bought. And it definitely was a huge upgrade, and it was also, a learning experience, learning how to use cameras like that. And I just had the one camera for doing walkthroughs or any types of filming, things like that. For this, I'm just filming on a Sony a7 IV, and it's the newest camera that I've acquired, and honestly, it's my favorite. It has really awesome autofocus. I'm not gonna do any camera tutorials. If you wanna learn about this camera, and you're thinking about getting a Sony full frame or anything like that, there's plenty of people who can tell you more about it in a more scientific or just better way than me. So I am still learning the camera, and it's really awesome. I mean, especially for just being able to shoot an S-Log and being able to have all that detail when it comes to color grading and stuff like that. And what's really cool is in DaVinci, I have power grades that I use, and learning about that was definitely a time saver because you can do all of the different things that you need with the nodes, and then you can just save that. And then pretty much most of the lighting in here is always kind of the same. And just being able to have a power grade to just drop on there and then tweak it depending on what types of color lighting I have, that helps a lot. So as far as cameras go, I have the Canon 77D. I have two Lumix G7s, which are awesome, super affordable cameras. If you're looking into getting a DSLR and you want something that's 4K and not too bad on the wallet, I would definitely check out the Panasonic Lumix G7s. They're, I think, usually around $500, and the lenses aren't very expensive either. And those are great ones to have. I've done a lot of interviews with those for Sound Iron, you know, just interviewing various composers. I've done some stuff with Charlie Clouser, who has composed all the Saw movies, Surge from System of a Down, and if you want to see any of the in the studio stuff from Sound Iron, definitely check that out too. Being able to have all those different types of cameras are super helpful, especially for just being able to have multiple things set up. You can just hit record and go, and it really makes it easy. Some other things that I've added to the studio as far as for filming gear is I got some lighting from GVM, which is Great Video Makers. Super affordable lighting. And then as far as lighting goes, I really like using LEDs because they're not super hot and it really just makes it easy. You can go between, you know, daylight and more like tungsten warm colors, and it really makes it easy. I think for this I have like a little tiny bit of tungsten in there just to not make it too bright, like daylight bright. And I recently got these kind of like honeycomb filters on here, and it really helps soften the light so you don't have these harsh LED lights hitting your skin, so it doesn't make your forehead shiny, kind of smoothens everything out and really makes things look nice. So since I've gotten these honeycomb covers and these sort of, I don't know, what would you call them? It's kind of like a sheet that goes over it too that really helps soften the light. Just makes it a little bit nicer to look at, you know, because sometimes if you're getting a little sweaty, maybe it's a little hot in your studio or something and you're filming, you don't want to be all shiny and stuff like that. So it really helps being able to have those on there as well. So to make things easier on my life, one of the things I got are these newer wall mounts. I have one here, which is using a LED light, and then I also have one behind me, which is mounted to the front. So when I'm doing tutorials and desk tutorials and things like that, I have this as my main sort of key light, and then I use this as a hair light. And then when I'm filming in a situation like this, I'll have this as my key light, and right now I have it a little bit off, you know, just to, you know, provide a little bit of shadow on the left side. And then I have my, what is normally my key light is now my hair light. So the cool thing about having this set up and just being able to move everything around is it allows me to just not have a bunch of stands everywhere, you know, because the one thing I don't want is to have to pack everything up and bring it out. It's just, I've done that, it's annoying. And being able to just have everything sort of mounted and in place, but also in a way that allows me to play around with it if I want to take this light and maybe bring it over here or move it over there. You know, I still have flexibility, but without having a bunch of stands everywhere. And the RGB lights that you see behind me are from LIFX, and what's really cool about these is that I can change them using my Stream Deck. So right now they're blue, and then if I want to change them like this, or maybe I just want them, you know, just like a regular light. Maybe I don't want to have that colored look, or, you know, anything I want. And it just allows me to quickly change the color of the room, because let's say I'm doing a walkthrough and maybe the art of the product is more of like a blue vibe, maybe then I'll use these lights, or if it's like a green or an orange, you know, I can play around with that. I also have some LED RGB light strips behind this shelf over here, and you can see that when you're watching the tutorials from this angle, and this is more just to kind of, you know, complement these lights. So if these are blue, I'll usually make these blue, or if the, you know, vibe that I want is to be like a blue and orange or that kind of thing, maybe I'll keep these orange and make those blue. So it will change depending on the type of aesthetic that I'm looking for in the video. So to give you a little bit of a before and after of the lighting for this type of situation, first I'll have my key light, and I usually like to have this a little bit off center just to give that sort of Rembrandt lighting where it just has a little bit, casting a little bit more shadow on the left side. And then I'll use the colored lighting behind me, and then that will just sort of give it a little bit, you know, more of a certain kind of colored aesthetic vibe. And then I'll have these salt lamps on the desk, as well as this other lamp that I have on the side, just more is like a decorative sort of accent light, just to kind of enhance the background and just add a little bit more visual interest. And then when it comes to doing video, one of the other important things that you really need to focus on is audio. Having good audio when it comes to doing video is super helpful. If the audio is really bad, but the video looks good, most likely people are gonna not wanna watch your video or listen to what you have to say, because you really want to have good audio, have good acoustic treatment in your room to really make it dry and direct. I use this wireless lav mic. I have this connected to the camera that you're seeing this from now. This is the Rode Link, and super useful. I've used this on, I don't even know how many videos now, as well as interviews and stuff like that. It just sounds great. I also have a preset that I've saved for when I'm doing DaVinci Resolve editing, so I can just drop that on, and it's gonna sound the same every time because it's pretty much all set up and dialed in to work for my voice as well as other types of voices. It seems to work pretty well. I could always adjust it after the fact, but this makes it super convenient when it comes to capturing audio for videos. So next we're going to be talking about guitar gear, and over the years I've acquired various different guitars, whether they're super cheap like the LTD guitar that I have. I think I got it for like under $300, and I've done, you know, records with it, I've toured with it, and you know, so it's like you don't really need super expensive gear. I mean, a lot of people say that, but it's really true, because a lot of people say like, oh, you need to have this guitar, or there's this brand, you know, screw BC Rich, or you know, whatever. But this guitar, I've done a lot with it. I've pretty much done, I think like 3 or 4 different records with it, and I really like it. I would probably say this guitar is my favorite. This is a custom guitar that I got from my girlfriend for a birthday gift, and she's amazing. And this guitar, it's just, you know, this is the guitar that I used for Ax Machina, which is the guitar virtual instrument that I did with Sound Iron. I think I need to drink some more water. But this guitar sounds awesome. It's all spec'd out to exactly how I wanted it. There's no other guitar that's exactly like this one. Even if they were to copy all the specs, it's not gonna be the same. So this is a super cool guitar. I have this stand right here to my left. It's a Hercules stand. Super convenient just being able to have it on a stand and just, you know, pick it up, put it down whenever you wanna play or jam. So this rack table that I have to the right of my desk, it's super convenient because not only can I set stuff on it, which is, you know, pretty much used as an extension of my desk, I have a rack on here, and what this is basically a whole rack setup. I got a Furman power conditioner in there, and then I also have some Synergy stuff. I've done some videos using the Synergy. If you want to see some more of that, let me know. I'm planning to do some more, but if there's anything in particular you guys want me to focus on, let me know. And then I also have this Driftwood load box. This is really cool. I've been wanting to use this more with an actual head, because with the Synergy, you don't necessarily need a load box because you can just run straight out of it into your DAW, which is really cool. But being able to have the load box allows you to be able to take a head, and instead of having a cab and having to mic it up and all that stuff, you can just take it and just run it straight into your computer to reamp or anything like that. So super useful. As far as my audio interface, I'm using the UR816C from Steinberg. Being that I use Cubase all the time and we do stuff with Steinberg, I really like having sort of the whole ecosystem of Steinberg products. It really super useful, has a lot of ins and outs. I use this pretty much for everything. Below that, I have my Kemper, and the Kemper Power Rack is really cool because you don't need a power amp. I have a power amp for the Synergy stuff, but that's pretty much its own thing. That's more of like a live gear setup type thing. But with the Kemper, I can record direct in, I can use it live, I can use it front of house, I can use it with a cab. It's super useful. And I have a bunch of profiles on there. The ones that I use probably the most, I would say, are from the Keith Merrow Kemper pack. I don't know if he's still selling those, but I remember bugging him a long time, you know, just trying to, you know, see what types of ones that he uses, if he's ever going to sell them. Eventually he started selling a Kemper pack, and I snagged that as soon as I saw that because I'm a huge fan of his tones. And those are the ones I use a lot. And I use the Kemper a lot for either getting tones or recording, or also using it as a monitor when I'm recording into Cubase, because when you're using plugins or having a whole mastering chain set up, you can get a lot of latency. So by using the Kemper, I can monitor my guitar through there, record in DI, and then I can have it play back with maybe some different plugins. And the plugins I normally use for amp tones are from Neural DSP. I think they're pretty much the best when it comes to that right now. I know there's a lot of other stuff with like the Neural Amp Modeler, which I haven't really messed around with too much, but as far as the plugins that I have at my disposal, the Neural DSP ones I think are pretty top notch. And then for my DI box, it's the same one I've been using for years. It's the Countryman Type 85, and it works great. Ever since I was recommended it years ago, I've been using it ever since. One of the things that I recently got that I would like to do a video on, just because it's one of my favorite pieces of gear for this type of stuff that I do, is this reamp box from Radial. This thing, it's super convenient. It just allows you to just run out from your audio interface into that, set up a channel, and then just reamp super quickly. It just makes it way easier. It's just been very stress-free when it comes to doing any type of reamping. So if you guys want to see a video of how I set that up and use it, let me know as well. So over the years, as plugins have been getting better and better, it's very easy to get stuck in the box and just using plugins. But over time, since I've been doing pre-production and just music production in general, I don't go to another studio to do anything unless I'm sending it out to get reamped by someone who's mixing and mastering a record. Like when I did the first Destroying the Devoid record, I had Zach Oren do all of that. But now, since I have my own setup, I really wanted to start getting into using cabs and miking cabs, and luckily I was reached out to by Matt Sotelo, and Matt Sotelo is the guitar player of Decrepit Birth. If you don't know who he is or them, you should definitely check out the band. Matt, you're a badass. I really appreciate you sending this over. The only thing I needed to do was put speakers in it, and he recommended the DV77s, and these are pretty awesome. I've heard them referred to as, almost like a greenback, but better, without having to have any hiss. Basically it's like a smoother top end, but a little bit more low end, and it's really awesome. I usually mic it with a SM57, and then I also have a condenser mic that I use. It's a Neumann TLM102. Just if I want to blend different microphone options. Normally a 57 will do the job, but if you want to blend, using a condenser is pretty cool. And then I've also built a pedal board. It's been a long time since I've used pedals or had a pedal board. Usually they're just kind of laying around everywhere or in the closet or something like that. And since Deeds of Flesh has been playing some shows, I really thought it would be worth investing in a pedal board that I can travel with, that pretty much just has everything laid out and really just makes everything easy when it comes to travel and just being able to drop it on the floor, plug it in, and be ready to go. So the pedal board that I use is from a company called Temple Audio. When I was first looking into pedal boards, I was asking our other guitar player, Ivan, what he used, and he said Temple Audio. So I looked up what type of arrangement I would want, picked how big of a pedal board I would need, and then pretty much just got that. It's super convenient in being able to have the power supply underneath and just being able to run and connect everything. There's these little attachments that you can use to really customize how you want the board with the outputs to be laid out. You can have DIs and all types of stuff, and just power in general. It just makes it super easy and convenient, especially if you're doing a lot of traveling or just playing live and you want it to be, working really quickly. So I'm also planning on doing a full video on this pedal board and showing you a little bit more of how it sounds, what I'm using, how I'm using it, especially in conjunction with the Synergy stuff. So definitely stay tuned for that. So here's where I would say I spend most of my day doing various tasks for work, as well as any type of music production. So the main thing that I really wanted with this was just being able to have everything at arm's reach, everything very ergonomical. Just when you're gonna be in a space for a long period of time, the one thing that you're gonna wanna do is be able to be comfortable. So even from like the chair to how you have everything, with your arms. I know some people have those keyboards where it's spread apart. I don't think I can do that. That just kind of, I don't know, it's just weird to me. The keyboard that I use is this Corsair keyboard. I really like this one because it has these macro buttons over here as well as a number pad, and that comes in handy, especially when you're doing various things. The mouse that I use, it's the Kensington Trackball. I really like this. I used to hate these back in the day when I used to be in various studios that would have them. It just was weird. I didn't really understand how to use them. Dom Segalis, if you follow his YouTube channel, he's a big fan of these, and ever since I started using them, because I was starting to get some wrist pain over time just doing repetitive tasks, instead of moving around with your wrist, you can just use your fingers. It also has these 4 different buttons, and these are cool because you can assign them to different key commands, which I do all the time. I have it set up for certain things like when I'm browsing, or for Cubase, or for DaVinci when I'm doing video editing. So it's super helpful. And then also just being able to assign different windows or software, apps to these buttons, super helpful, especially if you're doing work chat and stuff like that. You just want to pop it open and be able to save screen real estate for other stuff. And then moving up, I have this S61 Complete Control keyboard, and I love this keyboard just because it has these really snappy semi-weighted keys. It doesn't have all the faders that I would normally use, especially when you're doing any type of composing with strings or any type of virtual instruments that have different types of expression like modulation, and this has pitch bend. I don't really care for this slider, I don't use that, but I have this Sparrow 4 slider MIDI fader box. I was looking around for one that was not too expensive, and this one's really good. I've recommended this to a few people and they've loved it as well. And it's cool because you can use the software to assign it to whatever MIDI CC you want. I have this Touche SE right here. This is really cool. I've used this a few times when making music, and I really like the MPE stuff. Like I have this C-board, the Rolly C-board over here. It's just a little small one, and it's cool when you can kind of like push and dig in, and it's a different way of composing, and it kind of gets your brain thinking a little bit differently when it comes to making music, because when you have this, there's only so much, and you can, use the MIDI CC sliders for controlling various things, but when you can kind of like push and dig in and be a little bit more tactile with it, I find these to be fun to have around. I don't use them all the time, but it's super cool to have. To my right, arm's reach, I have this, this is also from Native Instruments, is the Machine. And it's super cool because it has these beat pads, so if you're programming percussion, you want to do it in a little bit of a different way instead of using the keyboard. It's really cool to have. Some other things that I have over here, we'll get into this later. This is a bunch of guitar stuff. And then over here to my left, I also have this Stream Deck. Super useful. I've had this in the studio for a long time. It's just another way of being able to have the ability to either open up apps, close apps, or if you have apps open and you have a bunch of key commands that you don't want to remember. I have a horrible memory when it comes to key commands, so it's just like if I can have it here and just be able to, select a program, have all the ones that I normally use available, super helpful, especially when doing any sample editing, which I do sometimes for SoundIron, making virtual instruments. And then here I have my iPad. Right now I have it set up for Metagrid. This is mainly what I use it for. I mean, you can use an iPad for other stuff. Sometimes I'll use the Procreate and I'll draw on there or something like that. But mainly what I use this for is for Metagrid with Cubase. You can use it for other programs too, which is really cool. So it's not only for composing or something like that, but this is mainly for just being able to quickly, do certain visibility things. If you're using large templates, you just want to see your strings or your brass or whatever, or, being able to, create a new track or export or whatever. It's just super handy to have, and it just makes working in Cubase so much quicker and so much easier, and just being able to see everything visually. I'm a very visual person when it comes to just trying to, work quickly and efficiently, and this really helps for that. And then as far as my studio monitors go, I use the Kali Audio IN8s. I've had these for a long time. I used to have the black ones, and then I got the white ones, and these are really cool. I've been using Kali Audio since the LP6s. If you've been following this channel, you probably saw a review I did. I've done a few reviews for Kali Audio, but the IN8s are awesome. I use them with the Sound ID reference software, so you can calibrate it to your room a little bit. So depending on your space, you can really dial in your studio monitors to be a little bit more accurate. I don't know how 100% accurate it is, but it definitely helps translate when it comes to mixes in the car. Because there's times where you work on a mix and you're all stoked on it, and then you bring it to the car, and then it's like that meme where the dude's crying in his car and, just wishing he made better decisions. So it really helps with translation. And then I also use a Acer Super Ultra Wide 49-inch monitor for mainly just, stuff like this, for having Cubase open. Cubase is the DAW that I use. I've been using Cubase 14 since they dropped it. I've been using Cubase since 8.5. I don't know how long ago that was, but it's been a long time. I love Cubase. It's a great DAW to work in. And then above this, I have this 43-inch, I believe, 4K monitor. I got this not too long ago, and it's really cool. Once I brought the ultra wide back, because if you've been watching anything I've been doing with SoundIron, you might see the studio change here and there. Being able to, have just a wide monitor for whether you're using Cubase or using DaVinci Resolve for video editing, just having a wider timeline really helps with visibility. And then I use the 4K basically for anything else. Like right now I have a mixer loaded up, and just being able to have things separated. I mean, yeah, you can use shortcuts for opening and closing certain things, but just being able to have stuff kind of there all the time is super helpful. And then for the aesthetics of the desk, I try to keep it minimal, but also just, have a cool vibe. My girlfriend made these skull faux planter things, and I like these on the desk. It's just cool. I've had people ask, why do you have such creepy stuff everywhere in your studio? And I've just, I've always liked that kind of stuff, whether it's, movie posters or, you know, just certain paintings, things like that. You know, I just wanted to have a space that's just very creative for me and just kind of cool to be in, whether I'm making music or doing work or whatever. And then I also have these salt lamps. I've had these for years. I remember watching some old Junkie XL videos and I was like, what are those? And then I got some. I've heard people say that it can help calm you. I mean, the orange warm color is very kind of comforting, but I've had these for a long time and it's just nice to have on the desk. I also have this other lamp over here to my right. I remember seeing a Keith Merrow video a long time ago and I was like, that's a cool lamp. And then I think there's a guitar player named Robert Baker had one too, and he said where he got it. So I went over there and picked one up. I think it was Hobby Lobby or something. So if you're into cool sort of, you know, vintage bulbs and lamps and stuff, it's a super cool one to have. And then I also use this Rode Podcaster. This is a really cool USB mic. It sounds really good. I use this for podcasts, for the Sound Iron podcast, or whether I'm doing work-related calls, you know, you're doing online Zoom meetings, stuff like that. This is super helpful to use because you can just run it in USB. I don't have to plug in a microphone and use phantom power or anything like that. So this is super helpful. The awesome people at Rode sent this to us and I've been using it ever since. It's really, really useful and easy to use, which is always nice. All right, so I want to thank you all for joining me and watching the studio tour. If you have any questions about any of the gear that you saw, or just anything that you've seen in general that I didn't cover, and you want to know a little bit more about it, just leave it in the comments and I'll try to make a full video on it, or at least maybe cover it in a future video. So if you want to subscribe to this channel, I'm not going to tell you to do that. I'm not your dad, you know. If you want to subscribe, just do it. I'm not going to tell you to smash that subscribe. No, I'm not going to do that. So if you like the video, give it a like. The algorithm can go itself. But yeah, thanks for watching. We'll have some more videos in the future. So see ya.